The Bronze Age, an era of ruthless kings and queens with absolute power. An era of slaves toiling under the whip of a cruel foeman and of mighty armies marching to conquer faraway lands. But is this actually true? For a long time, the Bronze Age people lived in small city-states, whose authority did not extend beyond the horizon.
But one man changed everything. He was Sargon of Akkad, history's first emperor. My name is Sarah. Welcome to the Mists of Time.
Our story begins in the year 1900, as two major conflicts were rocking the world. The Second Boer War in Southern Africa and the Boxer Rebellion in China. While the artillery was roaring, a book had just been published, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Meanwhile, far away from home, a German-American archaeologist was toiling under the blazing sun of the Iraqi desert. His name was Hermann Bollrath Hilprecht. Cool name, right? He was leading an expedition for the University of Pennsylvania, and his goal was to explore the ruins of Nippur, one of the ancient cities of Mesopotamia. Hilprecht found a great many archaeological artifacts, and the most interesting one was a piece of a broken clay tablet. It immediately became known as the Sumerian King List, a comprehensive list of all the kings and dynasties that had ruled over Mesopotamia. The list is not an historical document as we may intend it. The King List is a weird record that combines myths, legends, and historical information. It starts with this line: after kingship descended from heaven, the kingship was in the city of Eriduk. In Eriduk, Alulim became king. He ruled for 28,800 years.
According to the King List, all the early despots ruled for incredibly long times. Obviously, they are mythical kings, and the list should not be taken at face value. There was one central truth of Mesopotamian kingship. The local people thought the gods granted kingship to the strongest man, and that strength was the sole pillar of a legitimate rule. In a monarchy, political power is supposed to be hereditary. It's determined by blood, not martial prowess. But this was not the case in Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia was divided into two distinctive cultural units. In the south, there was the land of the people who spoke Sumerian, the first language to ever have been written down. In the north, there was an Akkadian-speaking community. Akkadian was a Semitic language, which means it was a distant relative of modern Arabic and Hebrew. The linguistic barrier was located somewhere between the cities of Kish and Nippur, but the line of separation was never clear-cut, as the two cultural groups had communities in each other's core region. Sumer and Akkad were divided into many independent city-states, each one consisting of a city with many smaller satellite towns and villages. In the year 2294 BC, Lugal-Zaggisi, the Sumerian king of Umma, began expanding his own realm. He was a very ambitious man, with clear designs for the region. One by one, he conquered all the southern cities. Even Nippur fell under his control. In his holy city there was the Temple of Enlil, which was the supreme god of all Sumerians. This conquest made Lugal-Zaggisi able to title himself the King of Sumer. He moved the capital to the rich city of Uruk, and his name was added to the already long king list. Lugal-Zaggisi claimed that, after conquering Sumer, he had reached the edge of the world, the so-called Upper Sea. To us, this is known as the Mediterranean Sea, while the Persian Gulf was known as the Lower Sea.
Lugal-Zagesi's claims don't stand up to scrutiny, and it's far more likely that he just conducted long-range raids between the two seas. What is of far greater importance, however, is that his arrogant boasts inspired notions of conquering a vast empire.
In the north, however, a ruthless and ambitious man of Akkadian origins had become the cupbearer of Ur-Zababa, the king of Kish. In a mysterious coup, the cupbearer usurped the throne of Kish and took the royal name of Sharukin, meaning respectively king and to confer. But he probably preferred the name Sharukin, or the legitimate king. Hebrew sources know him as Sargon, and from them we know him as Sargon of Akkad.
Many tales tell of this great man's mysterious origins. In one of them, the king ordered a hit on Sargon, as he was a rival. A blacksmith was supposed to kill Sargon by casting him in a blazing hot bronze mold. But the goddess Inanna protected Sargon and showed him the favor of the gods. In a much later story, Sargon was the son of a high priestess and an unknown man. His mother put him in a wicker basket and sent it downriver, where it was found by the man who would raise him.
Blessed by the gods, Sargon eventually took the reins of the kingdom of Kish. But wait a minute, haven't we heard this tale before? That's because it's the archetype of origin stories for such personages as Moses, Karna, Oedipus and Cyrus the Great. In other words, he's a cultural hero of humanity as a whole.
How and why a cupbearer was able to usurp the crown of Kish has been lost in the mists of time. But what we know for sure is that the new king immediately assembled a great army, marching against King Lugal-Zagesi of Sumer. Lugal-Zagesi was the overlord of many city-states. Each one was ruled by its own king. In an inscription, Sargon remembered a mighty military campaign in this way. I won 34 battles against 50 different kings. A humble cupbearer that had stolen the throne from his lord had just destroyed the greatest army the world had ever seen. In this way, Sargon of Akkad became the supreme ruler of Sumer.
Lugal-Zagesi was captured by the forces of Sargon and summarily put in chains. Sargon's soldiers brought the humiliated great king of Sumeria to the sacred city of Nippur, exposing him at the gate of Enlil's temple. Thus, the former cupbearer cemented his reputation and proved that the gods had made him the supreme ruler of Mesopotamia. Sargon could have rested upon his laurels, seeing as he was now in control of Uruk, Nippur and Kish, but his appetite for conquest only grew. His army marched against the cities of Ur, Lagash and Umma, tearing down the city walls after every conquest to prove Sargon's superiority. Upon reaching the shores of the Persian Gulf, Sargon washed these weapons in the so-called Lower Sea, as Lugal-Zagesi had done in the past. Where most would settle for being the supreme ruler of all Mesopotamia, Sargon had greater visions, founding the royal city of Akkad, whose location is unknown. Perhaps archaeologists, using the latest in satellite mapping, will find the ruins of Sargon's capital city one day. What wonders will it reveal to us?
From the royal city of Akkad, King Sargon issued Akkadian governors to the many cities of Sumer, but he did not seek to undermine the ancient traditions of the land. His goal was the creation of a Sumerian-Akkadian melting pot, and in fact, he made his daughter a priestess of Nannar, the moon deity of the Sumerian holy city of Ur. This really shows how great his respect for the conquered people of Sumer was.
After he had consolidated his political authority over the land of two rivers, his ambitions, yet again, pushed him to prepare new military campaigns, Turning his gaze eastwards, he fought the kings of the Ogham dynasty, rulers of Elam, a powerful kingdom in modern-day Iran. Sargon conquered Susa, the capital city of Elam. The Akkadian king raised Susa's status from a modest town to a royal city. The city of Susa would remain one of the most important cities in the world for many centuries. Upon seizing Susa, Sargon's influence reached even what is known today as Oman, to this day a very important area for copper mining. While all this was ongoing, Akkad's armies seized Maria and Ebla, important commercial hubs of the time. Reaching the cedar forest, what is known today as Lebanon, his troops took control over the regional richest supply of timber, a commodity that is very rare in the arid plains of Mesopotamia.
Sargon of Akkad, now the ruler of Lower and Upper Seas, had gone from being a cupbearer of modest origins to becoming history's first emperor. But you know the old saying, you can build a throne out of bayonets, but you can sit on it for long. How long will Sargon's empire last? We'll find out in the next episode. Subscribe and hit the bell to not miss it. See you next time in the Mists of Time.